Right. Hello. So today I wanted to just do a little bit of a September reset, as I mentioned on the WhatsApp, because it actually can be quite a tough month for some people, myself included. We can start September feeling all sort of fresh and back to school type of motivation, and quite quickly things can get busy and we can start to feel overwhelmed again. So one of the things that really helps me in these situations is knowing that other people are feeling the same way. So that was sort of the motivator really here, is to just be clear about that. It seems to be a very common thing from speaking to quite a lot of people. And I think that can help you not feel like it's you that's failing and sort of as a personal characteristic or negative aspect of yourself that you just can't get your act together. It's just really common. So that's the first thing I want you to think about, that it's a general vibe, I guess, at this time of year. And that can help you then just take a step back and not get so het up about it, really. And one of the things I think as well, we're all on this program together, and looking at sort of changing the way we eat. And the reality of it is, we are working to create a way of eating that is, especially for times like these, we're trying to get something going that feels so automatic, and we're so convinced and clear about the benefits of it that we experience in terms of, more energy and being more productive. And we know that it's something that we want to keep going, and that can really help us through times like this, when we know that actually this is where it's going to come into its own. Doesn't mean it's not hard, doesn't mean it doesn't come with its challenges, but that's okay. But that's what we're working towards, to just get this new way of eating, this new lifestyle aspect, I guess, to our diet, so that in the future it will just become easier and easier. Okay, and it will. All right. So it does take time for it to become automatic. So just know that. And it can, I still have to get in touch with some of the basics now. And I've probably been doing this for about 5 or 6 years. So I still have to be mindful of it. Because when we're stressed, when we're busy, we can be at risk of falling back into old habits, simply because they're older, they're more familiar, that they are more automatic, and quite often because of that, they feel easier. But it's not just our old habits that we're having to be mindful of falling back into. We are also, maybe a bit dramatic to say, we're under siege by supermarkets and Deliveroo and takeaways and all the, junk that we would be faced with when we go to the supermarket or a petrol station or a coffee shop. So we are always trying to be vigilant, because marketeers are really actively targeting us to try and get us to buy more of their stuff. So that they do that. They know when we're stressed and tired and busy, and they sort of try and take advantage of that a little bit to make those things there when we're maybe feeling our least resilient, I guess, or least able to resist them. So just know that that's a factor as well. Okay, so let's just go back and start with thinking about a bit of a mindset reset, because one of the things that I think it's important to keep reminding yourself of, that this isn't just about being on an old-fashioned weight loss diet. Okay, we're trying to create a system for ourselves which gives us the energy and the nutrition that we need to cope with busy lives. Okay, because we all have something we all have in common. We've got stressed, busy lives. We've got a lot on our plate. Okay. And we're also here because we want to make ourselves a priority. And that means just looking after ourselves, making our health a priority, our well-being a priority, and also helping to improve our mental strength and resilience is something that is also important, as well as that longer-term physical health. And that is key, because I think that's an interesting thing to tune into when things feel hard, to see it almost as a mental challenge. But I'm going to come back to that in a bit. So it's not just about that short-term benefit of weight loss, that we're actually working on things that are a lot more important to us, and that have a much bigger transformative effect, or much more significant transformative effect on our lives, because we want to make it easier. And I think it's also worth thinking about all those positives that you have experienced when you've got this, you've in a nice routine. And things that people tell me is they have a lot more energy, they can sleep better, their productivity levels go up, the mood is better, they can cope with stuff more. What's another one? Thinking about food less. That's a big one. You know, we're just taking away all of that. We're trying to make decisions before we need to make decisions, so that when we are in busy times, it becomes a lot easier. Okay, so think about all those positives. So we talked about September, and I think September can fool us, is what I want to say. You know, that excitement and optimism at the beginning, and then very quickly we get overwhelmed because workloads can go up, and we're looking at Christmas for our next holiday. I don't even want to say the C word at this point in time, but it's true. So we can get very easily pulled into feeling sort of quite overwhelmed, really, and that sort of nice, more relaxed feeling, we can still remember it, and that's why it just feels hard to suddenly feel that weight of everything on top of us. Okay, so one of the things when we're in that mindset, and I'm drawing on my own experience here and trying to sort of explain how I feel, is sometimes I can feel that I almost get pulled into that overwhelmed, and how hard things feel, and feeling a bit sorry for myself, or a lot sorry for myself, fixating on the cravings, the law of the cake, or the nice things that you feel like you want to eat that would make everything better, and it becomes a bit of a battle between you and your willpower. And what I've started to get better at doing is to be able to sort of pull myself back away from that situation, so almost zoom out and start to look at the situation more rationally. So it's not just all about me trying not to eat a piece of cake or grab a biscuit or whatever, get whatever I want out of the fridge. Okay. And the rational aspect of it is to know that when we get pulled towards cravings or comfort foods or junk food, whatever our thing is, there's reasons why. Okay. One of them is not being correctly nourished. So there's possibly a bit of hunger there, so that, or we could be still stuck in that diet mentality, trying to hold back a little bit of food and not eat as much as we need. Not having the coping strategies that we need. That's a big one. Not, you know, we're using food to sort of push down the feelings of stress or overwhelm, or distract us from that sort of overwhelm or discomfort with the feelings that we get when we're in a bit of a darker place. And the other aspect of it, which is probably the big thing for now, is taking on too much and not giving ourselves space, and I mean headspace. Now, I know it can be quite hard to, you know, if you're employed, I mean, it doesn't really matter if you're employed, you can give yourself an awful lot of work to do, whether it's a boss giving it to you or you're putting yourself under a lot of pressure, and it's usually a bit of both because we wear different hats. But we're just taking on too much, and we're putting ourselves under so much pressure, and quite a lot of it can be a little bit self-imposed because we might have perfectionist tendencies or being hard on ourselves, and we don't give ourselves enough space, and I mean mental space, to even process all the things that we're trying to do. And we can very easily feel that we have to be thinking or working on these things all the time, and that can be very draining from an energetic point of view. And I think that can be why we then think we need food, because we're struggling with maybe the energy that it's taking for our brains to be always on, always worrying. And that sort of ties into maybe a little bit of a lack of self-care, not giving ourselves that rest and recovery and that downtime, which can also be quite hard to do. And I've had this conversation with people recently when if their jobs are very demanding and sort of very high stress, and we've sort of got that adrenaline buzz going on day to day, can be actually quite hard to come back from that and do nothing, because we're sort of a little bit adrenaline junkies. And the idea of just being sat in our house at the end of the day with nothing to do, we can't actually cope with it, and we can be looking for things to do or trying to fill our brains. So we have to practice giving ourselves that space and just that downtime and allowing ourselves to switch off. That's really important. I know not everyone's, you know, some people on the other side of menopause, but for those of us who are still feeling the effects of perimenopause or early menopause and some of the symptoms, I definitely think that menopause can exacerbate all of this, because we layer on that brain fog, you know, that ease of feeling overwhelm and anxiety, or maybe coping with poor sleep, can just make everything be quite intense. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, because it can be something that feels harder now, that we might have been able to sort of cope with our life as it is 5 years ago, and that can be why. Okay, so zoom out, look at those situations a little bit more rationally, and try and make the solutions not just about food. We're trying to find other ways to, say no a little bit more, give ourselves permission to switch off, know that if we say no or let people wait or don't do something, in a lot of instances, things will be fine. Okay. So page 2, you might have noticed I'm looking down here. So strategies to hit the reset button. I'm a fan of journaling, actually. I'm not I don't necessarily go in every day and journal, but I'll go through phases where I do journal every day, and I find it's really, really helpful. And probably a lot of things that I've put into stuff like this is a result of me journaling in terms of my own journey and my own experience, and just thinking about how I feel and what I can do about it. So I do recommend that if it's something to certainly to try, and it can just help sort out the noise in your brain. And one of the things that I think journaling is really helpful to do is to reconnect you to your bigger goals. So as I said before, it can just become about the choice between whether you eat something or whether you don't eat something, whether you get the takeaway or don't get the takeaway. And that's not what this is about, really. It's not about that moment of decision or building some willpower around that. We're here for bigger things, for health, well-being, all those things, not having having a healthier relationship with food. And or there might be sort of bigger, more ambitious projects that you have, physical projects, and what one person sticks out in my mind who wants to do like a really big outdoor pursuit thing in a few years' time. And then there's people who've got ambitious travel and retirement plans. So I think you have to take some time out to reconnect with those bigger goals, because it's very easy to forget about those and detach ourselves from them in that day-to-day and in that little moment of struggle. And there can be lots of those little moments of struggle between food throughout the day while we're breaking these habits, or where it's not just about food, it's about feeling under pressure. And I think there's a huge amount of value in staying connected to your goals and just reminding yourself, because we just forget because there's so much other stuff taking our attention away. That's something I've really worked on recently as well, just to help me do exactly what I've just explained there. Make it about the big picture, not the small decisions and whether you win or lose them. More practically, I think there's space now for a menu refresh. The food that we feel like changes in the seasons, because a really important part of this is making sure you enjoy your food. And this goes back to something I've talked about with this balance between hard work and pleasure. We can be feeling that we're working very hard and there's not enough time for pleasure, which is the benefit of working very hard. So, and food is a big part of the pleasure in our lives. So it's really important that we enjoy the meals, and we can find, if we're trying to stick with salads when the weather's changing, I mean, it's a nice day while I'm talking about this, we can just sort of start to think, oh God, this is awful. And then we feel hard done by and deprived. And that can be a red, trigger, if you like, for what can I have now because I didn't enjoy my lunch or my dinner. So have a think about that. We'll do some research and put some more meals on. I know I put the high protein soups on the chat the other day, but look for things that are going to more be what you feel like right now. So more warming comfort food, soups, stews, warm salads, using vegetables and lentils, or pasta salads, curries, warmer breakfasts, maybe your eggs on toast would be where you went back to. And then even I like to put hot fruit on my cold yogurt, if anyone's all right with that. But that can feel a bit like a crumble type thing. If you've got hot fruit and cinnamon and some porridge oats sprinkled on there, that can be a really nice warming breakfast. So think about maybe refreshing the meals that you're having, but keep an eye on the protein and make sure you want to be aiming to have about 30 grams a meal. So that might be around 100 to 150 grams of chicken or fish. So if you're having soup, you want to be putting meat in or fish in, or lots of pulses, maybe a bit of cheese, or have something like some cottage cheese and crackers on the side. Anyone who's not sure about what to eat when the seasons change, just let me know. But I think that can be a big thing. Meal planning, I mean, we talk about this a lot, don't we? So that's always just so important, because that's that whole thing about making the decisions ahead of time, you know. And if you know you've got a busy week, just try and get one step ahead and just know what's coming up. Because what you want to do, and sorry, what you also want to do is, as well as having your meal plan your meal times. I found that's really helpful, because you want to make sure that you keep yourself fed. Because as soon as you let yourself get too hungry, if your meals aren't big enough, or the gap gets too long, or you've not prepared something, that's when the temptation or the necessity is to go and eat something else that we're trying to not eat as much of. And also, a good thing to think about is time your meals to the time of day that you're most active. I think this is a brilliant suggestion, and I'm more of a morning person, so I'm usually up early and in bed early. So I will have more meals at the front of the day. So I might be have a coffee as soon as I get up, which might be 6 o'clock. I'll be having my breakfast by 7:30. I'll have a coffee and a snack around 10:30, 11. Then I'll have my lunch between 12:30 and 1:30. And my dinner can be as early as 5 o'clock. So all my calories are condensed into the day, because that's when I need the energy, the brain power, the focus. So I put my meals in there. If you're more of a night owl and you're more the other way, then it might be that you push your breakfast a bit later on and your lunch a little bit later, and then you're having a snack in between your lunch and your dinner. And that's how you might structure your calories, because that's when you need the brain power and the energy for later on. And I think one of the things as well, so some people I know might find that the gap between lunch and dinner too long, particularly if you've got kids and you're having to take kids to sports things. So again, planning a snack for the afternoon, don't try and go that, from lunchtime, 12 o'clock to 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock with not eating. That's just not realistic. So you might need to think of it as like 4 little meals throughout the day. So that's really key. In terms of that pleasure thing that I talked about with enjoying your meals, this is where I think planning in treats is important as well. We're not trying to ban treats. We're trying to get past the idea that we have to be either good or bad. We're on a diet mentality or off a diet mentality. We're really trying to break that. And I don't know anyone who doesn't want to have food that they enjoy in their life in one way or another. Yes, they usually want to eat less of it, but they don't want to give it up altogether. Okay, so don't ban treats, but plan them into your day. Okay, so again, for me, that 11 o'clock is a good time for me. Some other people I know find that evening where they sit down maybe with a cup of tea, when they've like the day's ended, that's the time where they want the treat. So have yourself something. It's absolutely fine, and I think it's really important. Some people don't need them every day. Some people want to have a cake and a coffee with a friend or partner at the weekend. So just work out what the right thing is for you, but don't try and think that we can't have them, because we can. It's all about balance. We're getting rid of the sort of snacks because we're hungry. We want to get rid of the snacks that we're eating because we're struggling with coping with our day, with stress or emotional eating. But we want to then allow ourselves to have the snacks at the time of day when we can really savor them and really enjoy them, because we want to get out of this idea that there's certain things we can't eat, because we can eat whatever we want. It's just a question of working out what that 80-20 is, and that's how you do it. Just on cravings a bit more, I mean, I think it's also worth accepting or knowing that breaking habits is sometimes hard, and there's just no way around it. We can talk about all of these things and all these strategies, but you might be sat there thinking, oh, I really want that thing, and you're having it for the wrong reason, and you have to sort of surf that craving, if you like, and go through some discomfort to break that habit. And one of the things that is helping me enormously at the moment is seeing things like that as a mental challenge. Okay. It's not that I want to not be able to eat chocolate, because I will eat chocolate most days till I die. Fine about that. But I don't want to just be in and out the cupboard all day long because I'm stressed or I'm putting off doing difficult things for my work. Yeah, okay, that's what I don't want to do. So sometimes I have to not do things that I otherwise want to do. But this idea now of building mental strength and mental resilience is really appealing to me, because part of this whole journey is about seeing yourself as strong, as capable, as someone who can do hard things. Every single one of us on here has done some really tough things in our lives and probably does most weeks, most days, okay? And we want to continue to have that mental strength and that mental fortitude to be able to do hard things all our lives, because pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone is really where we grow and where we keep doors open for us to keep experiencing new, exciting things in our lives as we go through it. So when we think about it like that, then saying no to a biscuit because you're, a bit bored is not a big deal. And that's helped me enormously. And that's, again, it's zooming out of the emotional aspect of it, of that moment, and thinking, oh, no, I want to be able to, this isn't aligning itself with my values as a strong person who can do hard things. I'm almost staying small by using food to distract me from things. It's, we just don't need it. I don't want, we don't need to think like, we don't need to behave like that. Those types of behaviors don't serve us in any way. Okay, so that might just wanted to share that because that might be helpful for you as well. And then the other thing is, don't hide. When we think about the journaling, we've got the journaling on the app, and don't hide or feel shame about anything. It's really useful when we can shine a light on what we're doing. I used to eat in secret. Tim used to take his kids home and I would just go in the kitchen and pretty much eat till he came back. Because, you can be good in front of other people, but then you sort of go and eat when people aren't around. Whereas when you start to become open about what you're doing, and it's easier to find strategies to solve it. And it's also helpful to know that, these are things that aren't just about us and us having these awful, terrible, shameful habits. They are so common. I talk to people every day about this. And I just think, yeah, the more we face into it, the more we own those things, the more we sort of get curious about when we notice that we want something, or we're having a craving, or a situation has triggered us and we recognize it, the better we are able to create strategies to work around them in the future. And and develop other coping strategies, so we're not just back to the biscuits or whatever it is. And it's a process. It's not something that you need to just master overnight and it all falls into place. You just trying constantly. Each day is a new day. You're just learning, understanding, adjusting, trying out different things, changing behaviors gradually, just one little decision at a time. And I think that's where being kind to yourself almost sits underneath all of this, because it is about recognizing that there's a reason why you might feel overwhelmed, a good reason, not because you're someone who can't cope, because you've got a massive amount to do. And you haven't got enough hours in the day and you're under pressure. But being kind to yourself is a fantastic way to take the pressure off, because there is always a way around it. And like I say, take that pressure off. Sit back from the situation, give yourself a little bit of mental space, and that can be all you need just to start to find a way through it. Okay, so I hope that helps. I hope that just gives you some good ideas to get back into things, see things in a different way, maybe have a new bit of motivation or a new sort of energy around what we're trying to achieve and what the goal is and how that's going to benefit you in the long run. And just some ideas about the practicalities of how to do that, and then also what that shared journey is like, which it's taking effort, it's hard for us all at times, and that's okay, because we're just working to make things easier over time. So if you have any questions, if there's anything else that you need, if you ever need to have an extra chat outside of your monthly calls, doors always open. I'm always happy to catch up. All right then, so enjoy the rest of your day and I'll speak to you soon. All right, bye.